I was. I am Alice Real. I'm filling in for the chair of this committee who has not been chosen yet. And we were going to do that this week, but Art and Linda are not here, so we're gonna put it out to next month. Okay. So I call the meeting to order. You wanna give your name? So just for the record.
Edward Ryan, present.
Walker Davis, present.
Okay. The first thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from last month. I did see one change that I thought we should do, and that was that in the application 2025, this is page 4, Daniel and Jean Norval. Says the application was submitted to have a hedge maple tree planted in front of 45 West 4th Street. I don't believe they asked for any specific tree. And as a matter of fact, Ron mentioned that we have a tree that goes along with the other trees that have been planted on that street. So we shouldn't, they wanted to have a tree planted rather than hedge maple. Okay. So does anybody have anything else that they wanted to talk about for the minutes? Okay.
No, I didn't. I thought they were acceptable.
No, I don't either.
Okay, so make a motion to accept the minutes as amended. Any second?
Second the motion?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Then public comments from the floor. If you have an application here, we can wait till your application comes up before you have a comment. But if you have a general comment, now's a good time to. No, okay. Old business is we probably should discuss these together. The application 2025-02, 2025-07, and also the new application, which was discussed last month, but it hadn't been given a number. That's 2025-15. These are all people on West 6th Street. And there was quite a discussion last month about what you can do about it and whose responsibility it is to take care of those trees. Ed, you want to give us a little rundown of what, I know Art was the one who was looking into it, but he's not here, but he did tell us about it.
He did share some information. I made some notes. I'll just read them generally. Last month, a significant effort was made to document the detrimental effect of the root systems of some sycamore trees on West 6th Street. Presentation was made by Mr. Kleineff and Mr. Del Coglin and Mr. Pavlicek. There was documentation, there were root samples, physical samples, photographs, and a recommendation by Mr. Kleineff as to how the city should proceed with this issue. The commission tabled the applications to spend time trying to determine whose responsibility these trees were, whether they were the jurisdiction of the city of Newcastle or Newcastle County or Delaware Department of Transportation. And one of the commission members who has access to some state information determined that Route 9, also known as 6th Street, is a DelDOT thoroughfare or roadway, but that the trees are the responsibility of the city of Newcastle.
Well, before we say that.
We're pretty sure of that.
Well,
We think that.
Well, here's the thing. Apparently there was an agreement. Typically, those trees would be the responsibility of DelDOT. But there had been an agreement a while ago that the city would maintain the trees. Now, that's true. Whether that includes taking down the trees, I'm not sure because we haven't seen the document yet. So we need to see how the extent of our responsibility for those trees, I think, before we say one way or the other. And I apologize for not having that answer right now. I think Mr. Walker, who is here, if he were here, he'd be able to give us a little bit more information about that. But I think before we make any decision about these, I think we have to find out if our responsibility includes taking down any trees or whether it's just the maintaining of the trees. And I think that's a question because of the amount of expenses that would be on the shoulders of the city. If they were to say any, taking down the tree would be the responsibility of the city, that's a lot of burden on us, I think. So, and according to, there was a document that was a contract between the state, the DelDOT and the city. And we need to take a look at that and be sure what we're talking about before we take on that responsibility. I think, do you agree with that, Ed, or not?
If the document exists, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a verbal agreement, an understanding.
We said there was a document. Now, if it's not in our files, I would assume that DelDOT would have it. If they made an agreement with a city, there's probably a file that says Newcastle City, okay. I understand it's a number of years ago, but still, we should be able to come up with it, I think. And I think it would save us a lot of, money. If those trees do have to be taken down, the responsibility of, DelDOT, they would have a lot more resources to do that than we would, I think if it's our responsibility, I don't see, if we made the decision to take them down, I don't see how we could finance that. Because those are big, big trees. And as I said last month, I think as soon as we agree to take some down, everybody will want to take them down because they'll have the same problems.
But just as a residence
Uh-huh.
on Sixth Street, that is not the
That's
thought.
not true.
That's not true. We quite the opposite actually. We do not want them taken down. Personally, I feel that they're part of the best route into Newcastle because of the canopy. Understanding that there's issues, understanding that there's other things. I actually wrote to Suzanne Sounder requesting that we talk about this because I think if a decision like that was made, it would massively impact the aesthetics of the city. And I mean, understanding there's issues, we need to.
It's a big, big decision because it's very expensive. It would change the character of Sixth Street. And, but if we have people who are coming in with the bills that they had to pay of $15,000 to take care of their pipes, we got to consider it, I think.
Absolutely. Oh, no. I mean, but I think we should talk about all options. But I just, as a resident, I want to say that's not certainly my direct neighbours that we've discussed with. And it could be because we're further back from the road, or we're not seeing any problems. It could be, but the opposite. That's not something we want.
Well, even the people who want them taken down do it extremely reluctantly because, I think that Clinips last month were saying that one of the reasons they bought the house was the beauty of the trees in front of their house. But then, this is the second time they've had, and they brought in a piece of the root that was this wide, this long. It looked like a tree trunk, that was a part of the root that what they found in their yard next to their basement, so.
Is this the
It's a
time
hard
for
one.
public comments?
Yeah. Would you say your name and your?
Anthony Parker, I live on Sixth Street.
Okay.
These are legacy trees, and I sort of don't understand it. I understand that there are a lot of issues and expense. But I think about other cities. I mean, do you think they would cut down the oaks around Oglethorpe Plaza in Savannah? Because they just wouldn't do it. And that would totally change that entire street, especially if you removed all of them. But putting gaps in the canopy would be totally different, which is indeed one of the reasons that several people have bought on that street, because it's beautiful. And it would be environmentally terrible. Those trees absorb so much carbon dioxide. They're huge. The canopy is enormous. But we don't want to do that. We're not in the business of that. We spent thousands of dollars on our basement. I understand that. But it's not all about us as individuals. The community should have input into this. And I don't know whether it's even possible, but a way to finance the repairs, not the trees, but the repairs, might be to give people tax credits because it's city responsibility. So give them a tax credit for what they've spent.
That's a big charge against the city as well. I
Well,
mean,
Yeah, of course it
we're
is.
talking
but
about
it doesn't
$10,000
happen
per,
all at once.
you know. Anyway, yeah, yeah.
If I may,
Your name and
Kevin
address?
Coniff,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Park. Sorry.
yeah, we're not asking for all the trees to be removed from Sixth Street. In fact, nobody's asked for that. And a lot of these decisions are being made on, well, if we take down yours, everybody else is, well, nobody said that. That's just an assumption that's being
No.
made.
You did, didn't you?
Not all of them, not all of them.
Oh, you
Not
did.
applications.
Somebody
fact,
was here
These are
last
just
time.
our applications, and that's what we're looking to talk about. Nobody, we're not applying to have all the trees removed. Nobody's asking for all the trees removed. We're asking for the 2 trees that are destroying our property to be removed, and we're not asking you to make a decision about. Now, you can assume, well, everybody else may want it. That's not, you can't make that assumption.
And again, you're asking us to maintain the sidewalk. The city's telling us to maintain the sidewalk. We can't repair that sidewalk to avoid a tripping hazard until something's done with that tree. I mean, the roots have lifted the sidewalk, aside from the basement getting water in it. But, you know, I don't know how we're supposed to repair a sidewalk.
The funeral home did.
Can I have your name, please?
Oh, Gwen, Del Coglin.
The funeral home managed to do it. There's a walk around.
I'm sorry, a walk around?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They basically smash it up. And
Yeah.
They
They reroute it, so.
reroute the sidewalk. It has to be done every 15 years or something, but it's, once they've done it, it's.
Norman, are they legacy trees? I thought they had been planted, within.
That's what the
afterwards,
definition of a legacy tree is. They were planted in the 40s,
in the 40s.
so they're 80 plus
Yeah,
years old.
okay.
I mean, I would consider them legacy.
Okay.
The fact that they can live 200 to 300 years, I think is the legacy part of it.
Do they grow that whole time?
They slow down, but yeah.
Quite a bit of it.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree that probably there are people there who won't want their trees down, but as this gentleman said, Mr. Parker, there will be a tree here, and there will be 2 trees here, and then right now it's the full canopy over the street, which is the only street in town with a tree canopy. It would be heartbreaking to have to take them down. You understand, there's things that on both sides here is really.
Oh, yeah.
My pocketbook's also heartbreaking.
Yes, I know.
You know,
I know.
that's the other
On either
problem.
side, there's
You know,
heartbreaking things,
But,
you know?
and I absolutely agree. I mean, and I think as well towards that, certainly both people here is their properties are much closer to the actual trees,
Yes.
and I can see that being an issue. But when we talk about the expense of removing the trees, are we not better talking about some sort of utilizing that money to minimize the impact or to help people who are having issues? Because I mean, it's going to be a lot of money either way, and if that can be done, like I mean, I'm sure if you can keep a tree and not have to pay for the sidewalk and everything else.
Yeah, if they want to put a new sewer system in from the street, or from my house to the street, and take care of the sidewalk, the concrete work all out front of my house, that's fine. And like I said last week or last month, it's not that we don't want a tree there, we just don't want that one there.
Yeah, we
Once
have
you
to
get
have
that
a
tree out and the
replanted, but-
trumpet.
But you see, you can't plant a tree like that. You
Right.
plant a much smaller tree, which
Well,
will look strange in the,
We want,
and for a while.
we want the tree commission, I guess they had the authority on this. They replaced all those trees on Fifth Street or on Delaware Street in the 500 block and a couple on the 600 block. And they've already replaced 2 huge trees on Sixth Street just prior to the red light. If you're heading towards Wilmington, there were 2 sycamores on the right. They took them out in the,
It was like, what was the basis for taking out all the ones on Delaware Street? You know, I mean, it had a canopy too, but what was the basis for removing all those trees?
I don't know, I wasn't on the.
That's what I
Maybe
mean.
know,
So
right?
you're,
Anybody know?
you know,
They may have
you're
posed a,
saying, I'm sorry.
may have been hollow in the center, they had a.
Yeah, it might have been,
yeah,
It may have been dangerous.
Well, how do we know that these trees are not the same?
Well, you can have them, I guess,
I guess an arborist could tell you.
yeah.
But there again, the way, now there are several trees on Sixth Street that do lean out across Sixth Street. And if a storm comes in and they go over, I know that tree in front of my house is gonna wipe out or do damage to the three houses on the other side of the street. There's 3 row homes there.
Well,
I mean, you know,
I think they're separate. I mean, these are all good comments, but I think they're all very separate issues. There's the issues of the roots, there's the issues if a tree is unhealthy, and then there's the issues of if it was to fall over. They're all 3 very, very different things. And I think what I'd like to have the discussion on at least is looking at various options that we can do to help you out, you know, because with your stuff. But fundamentally, I feel, or I would like to think that the very last option would be to take down a healthy tree. But understanding that, again, if your structure is 3 foot away from a, I don't know, 150 foot or however big those things are, tree, there is going to be some impact.
you know, I'm thinking, well, first of all, we have to find out if we have absolute, you know, we have the maintenance of those trees, that is our responsibility. So leave it at that, but
Well, who cut down the other trees on Sixth Street?
I don't know.
And who paid for them?
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
if you know the answer to that, that solves everything.
When was this?
Probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Just 2 or 3?
Yeah,
Were you on the?
I don't remember those trees when I was on, I don't remember, those coming up, so it must have been before I was on.
Well, there was one in front of the Travers house. That one was taken down.
Mhm.
And then the lady on the corner,
Tona's mother, across from.
no, her name's Nancy. I don't know her last name, but
We can't talk about other properties. We just have to talk about the ones that we're.
Yeah.
well, that's the
just
ones that
get
they
the
took out
point.
on Sixth Street.
Right.
but you're talking about the properties, you're saying, well, the other properties might want to remove them.
I didn't.
You did.
Yes, that's true. Okay,
Yes, yeah.
all right. Do you have any, here's my suggestion. That we find out for sure, try to get that contract. But we also hire an arborist to come in and tell us which trees are a danger, which trees are not as far as falling or that kind of stuff, and which are healthy, which are not healthy. Then we ask this arborist about the root system. Is there anything that can be done to separate the root system from the house? You know, like put some kind of barrier. I don't know if it's possible, but it seems to me something we could look into so that maybe the roots would go elsewhere, not right
That's
into the
not,
system.
that's not possible.
It's not possible.
No,
Okay. I was hoping, but, or I don't know, beyond that, what do you think, Dan?
Well, I think it's an issue. I think we kind of determined that the trees are not unhealthy, that they're not a structural risk to property, that it's basically the roots. And it's how the roots impact the sewer system, whether it's city or county sewer system, and how it impacts the property owner. And I think our responsibility is to determine that the trees are healthy, that they can continue to grow for many years. But as far as dealing with how they affect the property owner, I think that is something that would require city code people, engineer, solicitor maybe, basically this city administration. unless I don't understand our role.
Well, you may want to find out what you did with the other 10 trees you took down. It wasn't that long ago.
On Sixth Street?
Yeah, did you have meetings and contact these people and the state?
On the, on the
County?
block that you're on Sixth Street?
No, these are the trees that they removed in the 500 block of Delaware Street from Gebhardt to Fourth. And then Sixth Street, they took out 4 or 5 trees there from Sixth Street down to the Armory. So it's not like this has never been done before. What are you people talking about? You want to take a tree down? You already took 10 of them down. So,
Yeah, there's precedent.
you know, find out, maybe that might be able to help you if somebody was on the commission, you know, years ago. Of course, it really wasn't years ago when they took these trees down.
Antonio was ahead of it for a while, right? Was he might have been there at the time? I know he was part of that deal, putting the new trees on Delaware Street.
Just,
The committee,
and then they planted the new ones, and that's what we're asking for. Remove this monster out in front of the house that's destroying our sewer system and the sidewalk and our foundation. Once you get it out of there, put a new tree there.
Ed is right, though. It's not, we don't generally remove trees that are that are healthy. And as a matter of fact, I think this question was brought up a couple of years ago. Judy Baldini was here, and I saw that the decision was that we were not gonna touch the trees because they're healthy. Now, I don't know what was if we had the same kind of discussion then.
Yeah, I wasn't there
Yeah.
for that discussion, but I did read that.
Yeah. What's your, you guys?
Well, I'm not sure. I think we have, like you said, we have to find out if that document exists that definitively says that Newcastle's responsible for maintaining those trees. I suspect it's probably true, but I've seen Municipal Services Commission trim those trees near the wires.
Yeah.
So I think there's
Can I
probably
ask a
some,
question about that?
yes, ma'am.
So we put an application in, our original application said trim and remove. So you're saying municipal services is responsible for trimming?
No, it's not responsible.
I've seen
They
them.
just did it for their purposes of maintaining their wires.
Well, I gave you a picture of the wires that are weaved through that tree in front of my house. So,
That's
and
not
that's
been
one of
trimmed.
the things I was going to ask you. Can I speak to somebody, whether it's one of you guys or someone else, who can I contact to come out and just look at where I want because of my telephone wire is drooping because there's pressure from the branch not falling on it, but
The trees outside
You
the front
know.
of our house, they were recently trimmed. In fact, there was a vine that was a complementary vine that was chopped at the base.
Mhm.
We saw them trimming
Yeah.
the
Right.
trees down by you, but
Right.
we never got
But
anything
we
trimmed.
weren't, I mean, that's a whole different thing. That vine there was nothing up with that vine. Someone just cut it.
It was
Which
gorgeous.
was frustrating, but we never get told, you know, if they're gonna do it, and I just assumed that it was municipal and they were looking after their wires. I didn't wanna argue, I mean, I don't wanna say.
no, they do. I've seen them trimming trees all through the city.
The other thing
Municipal.
is, it
Like
is
something's
hanging
down, but-
over the entire front part of our roof, which is not good for the roof either.
You
Not
said they-
for,
I'm sorry, Ms. Costello, did you say they did not? They didn't cut branches over the roof?
no,
They haven't cut their trees at all. I think that's your.
No,
point.
yeah, they never
that's-
touch
they've
that.
never touched our trees.
Whereas ours.
Tree.
I think what we've done is we've considered the removal, but not the
Right.
pruning. I mean, we could approve the pruning of the tree, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I want to have somebody come out. I'll meet with them whenever and show them the problem that's existing right now.
Mhm.
And then
As far
worry
as
about
the
the tree
trimming.
removal. Yeah, this is just trimming I want done off of the wires.
Yeah, we could recommend that, but that's the extent of our responsibility or our jurisdiction is to recommend that to city.
Will they get a hold of me or just come out and look themselves and?
They didn't talk to us, they just.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
They just did their.
But this is a little different. I mean, if you guys say, you guys need to go out and look at the tree in front of 16 West Sixth Street,
Well,
where it's
why
getting
don't
into the
we,
wires.
why don't we make a motion to approve the pruning of the tree in front of 16 West Sixth Street for now? So at least we can take care of the immediate problem.
Yes,
I make a motion that we approve the pruning of that tree on 16 West 16th Street. Second,
I second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so we will notify, I think that the NSC actually does that work for us though, right? I mean, they have
It was
the,
the MSC trucks.
yeah, they have the, whatever that thing is, that goes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we'll take care of that right away.
Okay.
Or not right away,
Thank
when the MSC gets to it. But we'll approve it,
Right,
okay?
that's the question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Alice, what does the code inspector have to say about this? Milt, do you
I'm
have
not
any?
too sure who trims the trees. I mean, it all depends on where the wires are. I mean, Public Works isn't gonna get close to any wires. If it's something they can do that doesn't, if it's on the roof, I'm sure they can handle that. Anything near wires, they're not capable of doing stuff like that.
Right,
Are you talking about pruning or in general?
right.
Are you talking about just the pruning or in general?
I'm just talking about the pruning,
Okay,
who's gonna do it with the
okay.
wires being an issue?
Norm, would it be worth, is there such a thing as an arborist consultant who could take a look at the trees and tell us what kind, Norm, okay.
I did,
Can you do that?
He did.
I did.
And what's the ultimate decision? What did you say?
We got nowhere. The trees are healthy. There's one, and nobody's brought it up, but there's a maple on there that's been butchered. It's totally bare on one side.
That's not on Sixth Street, though, right?
Yes, it
That's-
is.
Oh, I thought it was on Tremont.
Oh, is that on Tremont?
The corner of,
No.
Yeah, that's, Patty's or.
Patty O'Brien.
Yeah.
No, this is right, this is
Different
right in the middle of the last part of Sixth Street as it comes into South Street. It's over on Anthony and Jago's side.
Oh, no.
Oh, in front of,
Just
Well,
give it.
I walked the street Saturday, that tree definitely, and it goes all the way to the house, should be removed, but nobody's
No,
requested
can't-
that.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that on our own.
And it's.
The other one, all the sycamores, they're healthy, they've been butcher pruned because of the wires, but that's as far as I'll go. I'm not gonna say they should be removed or not removed because I don't live there. And I understand these people's problem. I also understand that, yes, they're legacy trees. That canopy will never be, if you remove any trees, whether it's 2 or 1 or all, will not be able to be replaced because it's now, sycamores are not on the recommended list anymore. They're all gonna be small enough to fit under those wires. They're never gonna meet in the middle of the street.
Did you see any that might be a danger to houses or to cars on the street?
I mean, any tree could be a hazard.
But nothing that was like
I saw a lot,
rotted or like a branch?
I saw a lot of sidewalks that are,
Yeah,
but that's, the trees are old, they're big.
you
Can
know,
I highlight his comment though, that says that sycamores are no longer on the recommended list?
yeah, well, this is,
I
they
wonder
were
why.
planted in the 40s.
I know, but there's a reason why they're not on the
Oh, yeah.
recommended list.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the problem.
well, that could also be said for a lot of the oak trees in town, the maples. And when all these trees were put in, the number of different trees that you could select was minimal. So there were probably 5, 6 large trees. And in the last 20 years, we have the benefit of all the different cultivars for the generic tree. And so I think that it's a very difficult problem because these were put in with good intent
Mhm.
60, 70, 80 years ago.
Yeah, now they're
They're
going,
really-
wait a minute, we
they're
messed up
really
here,
all
boys.
we have left of that early period.
Mhm.
And we do have more sycamores all around town.
Yeah,
if you go on Harmony and round onto the Strand, there are two sycamores that go right out into the street.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that. There's a lot of them on Sixth Street that are growing out this way,
They're reaching for
Yeah.
the.
And they get a
sunlight.
cavity.
I guess.
Well, but my point is that you could look at those two trees and say, oh my gosh, I mean, they're the worst trees in town. You know, if they ever fell down,
Mm-hmm,
well, that story could be repeated many, many times.
yeah.
If many of these trees fell down. I brought a picture of the catalpa tree over on Second Street,
Mhm.
and it's massive.
Mhm.
Talk about a legacy tree. And there was a time people wanted to take that down, and it was Dorsey Fisk that stepped in and said, this isn't gonna happen. It's really a bad idea. So she saved it, and the people next door, the Gibbons, are about 20 feet. I just measured it today.
Mhm.
It's actually about 18, but you know, I'm gonna give a little bit on that, but it's 20 feet away. And they, of course, express no concern because they don't have a problem of any kind, right?
Mhm.
They don't think it's in the foundation, it's not in the sewer. So, you know, it's very interesting that you have trees 50, 60 feet away from the house that are causing problems, and in this instance, you have one right on top of their house. And when Carl was head, he talked someone into giving $3,500 just for the study of the catalpa tree. And now something, you know, is gonna have to be done with it, and it's gonna be wired up, but, you know, it could fall at any time theoretically, right? Crunch them in their home. And then right next to this, there's a little alleyway, little driveway. But there's a sycamore tree that's 10 feet away from the house. Right on top of it. And it's good size, you know, it's something I could just barely get my arms around. So I don't know what all the rules are or what's happening, but, you know, I've had roots in our system. And we did all kinds of pictures of it and whatever, and they declared that there were some cracks in it here and there. And the supposition was from the county that the roots had worked their way into the cracks. They were looking for nutrition. So I think this is a difficult balancing thing, right? You have difficulty with the sewer. It's easy to assume that all these roots are going in and they're strangling the bugger and.
Well, I'm sure 90% of them are terracotta. That's
I
why the
understand
roots are
that.
getting at them.
That's what we have. Yeah, we've got about 3 cracks in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about if we do this? How about if we, say, well, first of all, take care of your pruning. But for the other people who have applications here, that we refer this to the city council as being able to make a better determination after having looked at all sides, all issues, which, as you said, Ed, we really can't. We can't do anything if the tree is healthy. We can't really say, cut it down.
Alice, may I make a suggestion on that, since I've played around a little bit with these things? I think it's a much more reasonable thing when the whole committee is here, that you come up with a position and then you send it on, right? You're an advisory group. So you send it on and then it's up, you know, to the next person, Antonina, to look at it. I mean, she's really our arbiter, right? So she looks at it, and if it's her decision to say, you know, take them down or leave them, or send them on to city council, I think that's really up to her. You know, it's not your, you know.
And I agree. My opinion is, I agree. I would like to see the trees stay, but I think the city should address the concerns and see what we can do to keep the trees, but also take some of the burden off the homeowners. I don't know if that's possible, but.
The gentleman last week or last month that was kind of running to me, now I forget his name. But he said, do you remember they got a price on taking a tree down once? And I can't remember where, and it was some astronomical figure. Do you remember what the figure was?
No, I don't. It's not in the minutes.
Okay.
I don't, we talked about it when we, looked at the trees on Sixth Street. And it's estimated to be about, this may not be completely accurate, but in the area of $5,000 per tree. You know, maybe
That's low.
Okay. I thought it was more
Largely-
than that, but,
Because of the wires.
yeah, oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's a good decision, Ron, if we could make a decision. You
Well,
know what I'm saying?
no, but I think- I
We
think-
don't really have the ability to make that decision
Well-
because it would involve a lot of money that we don't have.
So, but to Ron's point, like everybody likes the trees if they weren't causing any problems. So then you take it one step further, what problems are they causing? And if we talk about sewers or we talk about sidewalks or we talk about those sort of things, those costs are definitive. And there is something that you can probably do aside from chopping. I mean, I just think that we seem to be chop down a whole tree or nothing. And I mean, there is a cost associated with that, but I'm sure these people that have these problems, and I truly, feel for them, it would be happy to leave the tree if they were gonna come and sort your sewer out or the sidewalk, or if your foundations could be repaired.
But those problems are not gonna go away, they're gonna keep happening because the trees keep tearing up the sidewalk, keep tearing up the
They
foundation.
keep growing.
They keep growing.
But I agree with what,
You know,
you know, if the city, if it's $8,000 to take the tree down, okay? And it's only $4,000 to repair, put a new PVC sewer line in and repair all the concrete out in front of my house is $4,000, then do that rather than taking the tree down for $8,000.
Well, that's assuming that it's just the sewer system or whatever, but it's also possible, foundation.
Yeah,
concerns,
because
right?
our-
So,
Our front
but
wall leaks where the
Yeah.
tree is.
what I'm saying is $4,000 doesn't sound like.
Well,
Okay.
I'm just using figures. I don't know what it.
but the point is, surely we should look at the options, the options that are available to us. I think that would be helpful.
Okay,
But those options are not, I mean, you're making up these options. The city is not offering tax credits. The city doesn't offer those things.
Well, but, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to sort these out. I mean, we haven't, I've been around this for about 10 years. And we've never had a problem like this en masse, right? Even when we took down the trees between Fifth and Sixth, most of those were severely diseased and had been neglected. And I guess this committee bears some responsibility for not looking after them. So it wasn't just some, random decision where someone said, well, let's take all the trees.
I'm sure there was a problem with them.
Nothing like that. But, many were in the wires. They had been severely, chopped in the middle, which makes them weak and, susceptible to disease. So it was a very difficult decision, even under those conditions, to take them down. Because this is not a tree removal committee, I hope. It's a committee that's made up of your neighbors that, we're supposed to be looking after one another. And I think the intentions are all really good here, but the first thing that needs to be done is I think we really need to determine, does this committee even have the responsibility to do this? They really don't know at this point, right? Because it is a right of way. And in the ordinance that we work with, about the second line down, it says the city is responsible for sidewalk trees, trees in the median, and right of way. Now, it says it right there. And the last time that ordinance was looked at, it was in 2015. So I assume nothing's changed since then. But that would seem to me to be the first step. And if Art can sort this out, I mean, this problem isn't gonna go away overnight, but it's not gonna be solved overnight either. I mean, your trees are too important to just come up with some quick decision and then, mow them down or, have them trimmed haphazardly is just as bad, right?
Yeah.
If someone's not doing it properly, you've got, I'm talking Norman's talk now, right? I mean, listen, Norman had a nursery for, 25 years and he's trimmed thousands of trees. He's planted many, many, many more. So, I just think this is unfortunately one of those things that's gonna move at a slow pace. And I invited the former code inspector, who would have a lot to say about sycamore trees, because he's a big tree person. He likes lindens, big maples, but he's not here tonight.
John Lloyd.
But if John Lloyd, and if John Lloyd were here, he would say, you know, folks, please don't take those trees down. Whatever you do, you know, trim the roots, trim them up top, you know,
Can
do
you
whatever
trim
you
roots?
want.
I don't know, how do you trim roots?
Can you trim
Well,
roots?
he
You're gonna
said,
have to dig,
What if
it's
it's just you're gonna dig all the
roots?
concrete up to kill the roots or trim the roots back. Put a new pad down for me.
John was telling me that there was something that they did when he was head of this commission,
Mhm.
maybe about 10 years ago. He said that they had a program over on Tremont where they took many of the roots. I was hoping he'd be here to talk about it,
Mhm.
but that was the first move they made, rather than trying to cut or do whatever. And I think he's talking about the 4 sycamores that are between Sixth Street going over to Seventh. And they're over on the left side of Tremont there, and they're very
Mhm.
erect. They're like a London plane tree should look when they're not all cut up and chopped to dickens. You know, well, listen, it was a mistake, right? To plant great big trees under the wires, you know, we
Mhm.
know that.
And I think so close to the houses and the street themselves, I don't think they ever, you know, thought, hey, what's gonna happen 80 years from now?
Well,
You know,
Now
they
you can
just
just,
picked it because it
you
was a
can
nice looking
fast
tree.
forward that and say, you know, what's gonna happen in the next 100 years, right? And
Yeah,
they'll still be there, right? But they won't be, you know, like this
the
anymore.
houses won't be there.
You know, and-
Everybody's
and
gonna
The
move.
largest one we took down between, what was it, between, Fourth and Fifth at 411. And it had a, frontal, measurement of 42 inches. You know, just about my wingspan.
Mhm.
And that came down, and that was about $6,000. And the owners graciously paid half of it. They had no responsibility. Again, another one of
Mhm.
these trees that was put down in an early time. But I'm talking way too much, and my apologies.
You're doing
to
a
all
good
of you.
job.
But this is something that's right
Yeah,
here.
Well, that sort of lends itself to the idea that these trees have outgrown their place. I'm not in favor of taking them out, on the contrary. But if they're gonna continue to grow, they're gonna continue to consume more area and present more problems.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Amen. If you have the jurisdiction to do it.
Yeah, so we have to find that out.
Yeah.
Then we have to see.
well, whoever's gonna have the jurisdiction is who's gonna write the check. So wherever this goes, if it's the council, they're the ones that are gonna say, you know, no, just go ahead and put the guy's new sewer line in for him. That's only $2,500 and it's gonna cost us $6,000 to take that tree down.
Well,
You
and
know.
I think that's a very good point. I think it would be really useful if all the people that were applying for the trees to be removed to actually, because that's the assumption is going to be the fix.
Mhm.
If they were all to list the issues and the costs.
I just spent $9,000. I have to get a second job this summer to pay for this sewer
And
line.
I don't, I mean,
And I mean, I appreciate you love how pretty they are and how much you think everybody should keep them. But some of us are being financially impacted by them. And I'm not quite sure you appreciate the impact it has on.
And I
them.
think there's only 3 trees that is in this whole discussion.
Yes. Not-
Well, there
The-
are 4,
the
actually.
Application, therefore,
And
Three
we
for
have,
every
we
application.
do have that information now, I think, Jago. I think we do know how it impacted the property owners who've submitted the applications that involve the 4 trees. We have documentation. We haven't seen the receipts that they've paid, but, you know.
Yeah, no,
certainly-
I don't doubt, I'm not questioning, my point is that like, we should as a community, look for options, it shouldn't be the burden
I
of an
agree.
individual at all, and that's
That's why I suggested tax credits.
or something, because I think that would be, I mean, all the people here, everyone wants the trees, like everyone wants to keep the trees, but you know, to your point, you don't want to spend $9,000 every 5 years.
Correct.
Like, absolutely.
And there are
whenever
4
it is.
instances where that has occurred like it has for Mr. Kleina. There are at least 4 other properties where people have incurred those similar expenses. So I'll go back to my original statement. I think we need to recommend that, city administration review this with municipal services, the people who maintain the infrastructure, how impacting, how much, and the Kleineff's presentation brought this to my mind. Delmarva might be involved with the wiring, or maybe municipal services. What are their expenses? What are their costs of maintaining the trees, replacing sewer lines?
Well,
Let's
they
put
don't
the
have any
responsibility of
costs.
the people that have the money.
Right, but it doesn't sound like they're paying anything, because Mr. Klein's had to pay the $9,000, no one else.
Oh, they're not paying any right now. The question.
Yeah, the
question
homeowners
is
have
who-
assumed costs.
Absolutely, they haven't done it yet, but we haven't asked them this is a sort of a novel question about paying expenses that are the result of the trees. Well, can we at least decide that, we need to find that contract or whatever it is, the agreement with the DelDOT to see about exactly what our responsibility, the city's responsibility is, not the tree commission, but the city's responsibility. And then I think, I know this sounds terrible to put it off for one more month, but come back in a month with a suggested way we send this to the city administrator, the city council, whatever, with possibility, with maybe a couple of suggestions about how to approach it, and putting out what the specific situation is. Everybody come up with something, and then we'll put it together next month, and with the idea that we can then send it off to, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we probably need the input of the rest of the commission.
Oh, you do? Oh, we can't do that except at a meeting though.
That kind of delays the issue again another month.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Would it be possible to, would it be possible to invite those people to one of these meetings that you're speaking of? The administrator, the solicitor, and have them present so that we're not constantly doing this. Well, does it have to go here? It has to go there.
We
Why
could do
can't
that,
those
but then
people be invited to the
Well,
tree commission meeting?
If it goes to the council, we can't ask the council to come here. Because they would have to have a meeting of the council members. It has to give a notice to people and everything like that. So they can't just show up at our meeting.
But I think to the clarity of there seems to be some confusion about everybody's role in this. Like, I mean, it seems that, and
There is.
So the clarification of that, and also particularly for the residents' perspective, although I'm not one who's got a problem, like that they seem to be bearing the burden, and that seems to be pretty unfair, if you ask me, because everyone in the city prospers from these lovely trees, and so why isn't it more? And it's not your job to answer this question. I understand that, but
No,
it just
this
seems
is
to
it.
me.
That's the whole reason why we have this discussion. Because if we didn't care about the trees and we didn't care about the people who were having these expenses, we wouldn't go into this long discussion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We would just say, oh, the trees are fine, sorry. But we have a lot of sympathy and empathy for people who are suffering there. That's why we're suggesting that we send it along to people who can make the decisions about things like, I don't know about tax credit, because we
Right.
don't pay enough taxes to give a tax credit for
You
this.
don't know that. They've just done a redo. It might all change in a few
Yeah,
months. But no, I understand your point.
Anyway, so,
Well, I don't think we should wait. I think we should make a recommendation this month.
oh, I thought you said you wanted the input of the other people.
Well,
in the county.
I'm reconsidering.
Okay,
I can't speak for them, but I think we've discussed it enough to come to the conclusion that it's not our decision. The decision isn't, it's not in the hands of 3 people. I think it needs the input of city engineer, code inspector, city administrator, somebody who is who can communicate with municipal services, bring all the parties together, and either advise us or make the decision themselves. I don't see where we're gonna get any further.
I agree with that, except
If
that,
there's any more.
except that I think we should have the research as much as we can, say our responsibility, the city's responsibility. So that's not a question.
Well, I thought that Art had determined that.
No, he said that he wasn't sure because there was an agreement between DelDOT and the city about maintenance of the trees.
Well, if we assume there is an agreement, then that would make the trees the city's responsibility.
Again, it could be, yes, or it could be just regular maintenance, and then anything having to do with the taking down the trees would still be DelDOT. I don't know.
Well, we're
That's what I'm saying.
recommending the trees not be taken down.
Are we?
I think so.
I think so, but
Yeah.
you wanna talk to the city council or administrator.
City engineer,
Yeah,
solicitor, if the city administrator feels that their input is needed.
Somehow the city has to accept the responsibility. Because the community benefits, the city has to accept the responsibility for helping these people with their problems.
and that's
Because
where
they're,
it needs to go.
if they're the city's
That's what I'm saying.
trees, I mean,
I think that's very reasonable.
So
We could kick it around another month,
the
but
consensus is that we wanna keep the trees? Cause I didn't get that. Or we just said we were gonna grow and then now they're past their prime, and all that, you just said that a few minutes ago. So I didn't,
For 100 years.
yeah, I don't think we can make that, these gentlemen, the professionals evaluated the trees. They're not unhealthy. They're not diseased. They're not a structural.
Okay, so what you're saying is we don't have the ability to say, take the trees down because they're healthy trees. So it's not a question of maintaining the trees. It's a question of what is the result of those trees, and that is something that the city should take on, right? Is that more like it?
We wanna keep the trees, but we want the city to see what they can do to help the homeowners that are being affected by the trees. If there's anything they can do to help maintain the trees for the community.
Yeah.
So
Nicely said.
if they can help them out on some of the cost of maintaining underneath the sidewalks, on top of the sidewalks. So
Makes
so the whole community can benefit from the trees, but take the burden away from
From the individual,
the individual.
put the burden on the
That
community
could
versus.
come to a happy medium, as they say, keep the trees, but help the homeowners, because they're legacy trees, as we're saying, I mean,
Yeah, they should be preserved,
yeah. So I think it has
but the
to
city
go.
has a responsibility for them.
You know, I think that's great. I don't think that's gonna happen. Because I don't think the city of Newcastle is gonna pay people's bills for their
But
sewage.
it's not for it's for the legacy tree. I would say, to propose it, I would say these are legacy trees. Not every single tree is a legacy. Not everyone's gonna get.
But that's also the case now, so we're saying that certain people will get paid for it. I'm skeptical,
it gets-
I'm skeptical that the city is
But
going to
that's,
say.
but that's not the decision here to make, though.
It isn't,
And
No.
as a resident, I mean, I think if you polled the residents and you said, these are your options, these trees are damaging everybody, we're gonna chop them all down because and that's gonna work. I would imagine that there would be a lot of people who would be, no, we'll help pay, or and that's to the point of Walkett, that's not, you guys can't make that call, that they can make, you're right, the city might not, but that's not.
sure, I mean, it's their decision, but I'm just saying, don't be surprised if they say, we're not paying the bills now because in 5 years, there'll be more bills to pay, and there'll be other people who will have bills, and we are not going to be subsidized.
But that's
let the
again,
city
you-
make that decision, I guess, but I'm just saying, I think that's what's gonna happen.
But also the other question is it, and I don't know, are the trustees in any way responsible, or can they help?
Oh, maybe they can help, but that would be a donation more than they're no responsibility.
Because again, if these are common, like the whole point is that the whole community wants these trees, but the burden of these trees have been put on the individual, and that's what we have to, and that's not fair. Then, and that shouldn't be, and if that's the case, if the burden is solely the individuals, then at that point, they can make the decision. But I think given the option that the community would rather help than make someone pay, and so, I mean, that's what as a resident, that's what I would say.
And of course,
Have
we
you ever
don't
been to a
know
budget
because
meeting?
we've never really been faced with something like this.
Yeah, but I think they're right. You have to give it to the city.
Yeah.
You made your recommendations. You'll prune the gentleman's tree.
Right,
The rest of the trees are healthy. End of discussion.
okay, so
Give it to the city.
I make a motion that we recognize that our responsibility is for the health of the tree. And beyond that, it is the city's responsibility. So therefore, we are recommending that the city take up the question of whether these trees, we recommend that the trees be maintained if at all possible, with the idea that the city will address the question of the damage that these trees are doing to the property.
Or how to preserve the trees.
Right, okay,
Health and preserve.
yeah, but our recommendation is that the tree be maintained if at all possible. And that we leave it to the city to make those decisions beyond that. And, what was I gonna say? Something else too, but, so then, we need to approach the city, with something.
Well, we have the applications. We have evidence that the applicants have presented us.
I know, but we're gonna have to tell, what I'm saying is, I think we should put together a little, summary
Oh,
of where
absolutely.
we are
I
here.
agree.
And then we bring it to the city administrator and to the city council president, and then leave them with the responsibility of determining what comes next.
I second that motion.
All right, you don't have to repeat that for me.
Great.
Very succinctly, a little bit.
I make a motion that,
These applications, 2025-02,
right,
2025-07.
and 2025-15 be forwarded to the city.
And
That's not,
make sure-
that's not what my motion was. Hold on a second. We make a motion that, that we recognize that our responsibility is the health of the trees. We've determined that the trees are healthy, that are the subject of application 2025-02, 2025-07, and 2025-15. But we ask that the city address the question of the damage that these trees are doing to property owners, with the idea that our recommendation is to maintain the trees if at all possible. Is it more than that?
Generally covers it.
Okay,
That's it.
one second.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we'll do that in the interim before the next meeting.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
So now where does it go? It
Well-
goes to the city, but how do we know what's going on?
Okay, we'll keep you informed of what's going on, okay? Do you put,
It's on the
Yeah, we
application.
have the Del Coghlan's application, yes.
okay,
with
do you
their
put the
address, phone
information,
number.
everything on there?
Yep.
Okay, so we will let you know, but right now, what we have to do is, I'll be happy to put something together, and then I'll send it to you guys, and you can just comment that it is exactly what we agreed to, right, Kathy? That'd be okay, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And that way Linda and our
And they can also
And the-
see, yeah, we won't make any changes of what we said. We'll just make sure that the letter or the presentation is representative of what we just said, okay?
Yep.
And then, because of the FOIA laws and
And
everything.
we include the evidence and information that Mr. Kleineff brought.
Yes,
Which I
Yes.
did send to the city
Yeah.
administrator
yes.
after the last meeting.
So that, I'll put that together and I'll send it to the city administrator and to the city council president. And then it's up to them to determine whether or not they want to bring it before the city council or what to do beyond that, okay?
Mhm.
I don't think we should make any recommendations that what they should do, except to say that we prefer that the trees be maintained.
Yeah.
However we can do it, okay?
But yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Is that reasonable for you
All right.
guys?
Okay, great, thank you. So we've figured that one out, okay,
That's old business.
yeah, okay. Now
Thank
we'll go to
Thank you.
application, thank
In
you, thank you so
response
much.
to your, about inviting, the city solicitor has been invited. She doesn't come.
Yeah, city
City
administrator.
City
administrator.
administrator, whoever,
Right.
whatever, Antonio, she doesn't come.
Antonina,
Whatever her name is, she's never been here.
I know who you mean.
no, she doesn't come to these meetings, no. Well, you know, she can't come to every meeting.
Well, she's been invited, because there've been other times we'd like clarification. She doesn't show up.
Okay.
Oh, that's harsh.
But it's a fact.
It is in fact,
Accepted.
but okay.
I just wanted to know, you know, where we go next. Should we come back here in a month or should, or it'll be the city council at that point?
What the response is, and then at
Okay.
that point, we're going to leave it to the city
City council.
administrator and the city council president to determine what the next step is.
Okay, if
Okay.
you would just let us know where that
Yeah.
goes, I appreciate.
Well, we put you on the pruning list.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
please, thank you.
somebody's,
We'll reach out to you before the July meeting to
okay,
tell you whether we have, whether there's been any communication, any resolution,
okay.
or where how we expect to address that, or if we expect to address it.
I would hope that it's at least discussed in the city meeting. I mean, I would,
Yeah,
because I don't, I mean, the situation isn't, I really feel for you guys. I mean, I don't think it's your responsibility at all.
mhm.
And who's gonna let them know about the pruning?
Yeah, who's gonna call me?
Probably no one.
That's
The city will come out. They'll come out
They've
when
been known
they
to show up.
fit it in their schedule. They will come out and you'll hear a truck outside.
You'll hear a little buzz saw.
One saw.
Well, hopefully I'm home.
Yeah,
That's been our experience. in the
It's not
past.
just the wires, it needs to come to a roof.
Yeah,
Okay, well, yeah, that should be recommended.
so,
right.
Yeah, if they don't know, they're just gonna come out and clip around wires
Yeah.
instead of coming in, getting it off our roof.
Okay, well, did you, in
was
your
that your
application, did
application?
you say that? What the?
not about
No,
the
no,
wire pruning.
Okay,
Ours was either, you know, all we wanted in the very beginning and still want is the sidewalk.
also the bridges are
repaired and the
on
sewer
our roof.
system.
Yes, I did put that on there.
Okay,
Okay.
good. They'll at least know that
All
part.
right. And that's-
Great,
Okay.
thank
Thank
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I can start this procedure for you Saturday. When Ed and Norman and I went out, looked at all those trees. So, you know, we are concerned about them. And
Yeah.
It may not be moving at the speed that, you know, you would like, but we're trying to do what we can about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And we
But
appreciate
thank you for
that.
coming in. Yeah.
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, now application 2025-11, Kim Williams, 922 Gray Street planting request. I wasn't here last month, so I don't know what exactly.
That's actually a misprint. It's a pruning request.
It's a pruning request.
And I thought we approved that. I spoke to her and told her that she was concerned about 3 trees. 2 of the trees.
Oh,
are-
we didn't know whether they were her trees or not, right?
Well, 2 of them are on private property.
Okay,
And I don't know if it's her property or if there's an HOA that oversees that whole strip of homes, connected homes on Gray Street. They have a parking
2025.
lot in the back, so it looks like a group. Like there might be an HOA.
it says here, a motion to table to the June meeting was made by Mr. Ryan, so.
Okay, well then I think I would make a motion that we approve the pruning of the tree in the front of the house.
Okay,
I believe it's 122. I'm sorry, 922.
Gray Street.
And I have photos right here of the trees, the other 2 trees that I think pretty clearly shows that they're not.
Are these the oak trees on, next to Susie Park? This is what we're talking.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
it
they
is.
look like they're pretty far into the homeowner's property.
Art said that they're city trees,
Really?
even though they do look to be on their front lawns.
Yeah.
And these are,
So which trees? Are we including all of them?
no, just one. So I'm recommending one. Okay, here's the tree in the front.
Okay.
And there were 5 others going down towards 928. But this is the tree that he's talking about, and these 2
big trees, I think.
But we're not
Our
dealing with
property,
it.
I don't think they just go way back.
Good. Is your grandson?
My grandson.
Exactly, so.
Sorry.
Oh.
Here they are. So these are the other trees.
Oh.
These are clearly inside.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Inside the
all right, let's second that motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right, so we're pruning Dre Street, okay. How about the one from Benny Beal for 26
Oh.
Strand?
I talked to Sandy, Benny's wife, and she is gonna hire a professional to have those trimmed the way she likes,
I
so,
think that's a good idea.
Okay.
yeah, she's.
She's gonna take care of both of them?
You know what?
Like, Rich Taylor doesn't live there anymore. He's moved away.
I don't know if she's gonna pay for both. That's a good question. I have to go back and talk to her about that. I only talked to her about hers and I should have slipped my mind, but
Did you look at the Pinellas tree?
that's
Looks
the,
exactly the same, right? The same tree.
Well, it's about maybe 25% smaller.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it really doesn't look like it needs much.
Okay.
I mean, if they passed the blade over to one side of it.
now she said she would like to remove that request and then she's gonna hire a professional to trim them, so.
Okay,
I'm assuming that's both.
so the outcome is that petition or application is removed, has been
Yeah,
canceled.
yeah.
Okay, and as far as Pernell, you're going to table it until next month while you talk to the Beals or?
I can talk to the Bills again, see if they're gonna pay for both.
Yeah, because I know
Because
that,
I'm assuming they would wanna pay, because they want them professionally.
right.
Yeah.
Rick is not going to worry about it because he doesn't live there anymore,
Okay,
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
I think
Rick doesn't live there
Mr.
anymore.
King, but.
So that's all of our applications so far.
I have no.
Oh,
Yep.
well, it can't
Yep.
be here because you haven't been on the, it isn't on the agenda, we can't discuss it.
Well, this is an application that was dropped. It was lost in 2024. The lady was here last month, Patty O'Brien.
Yeah, unfortunately,
And the
it has to be
application-
on the agenda, right? We can't discuss
You
it without
can't.
being on the agenda?
You really can't, you really shouldn't, because if you're gonna make any decisions about it, it's not on the agenda,
But it has an application number.
doesn't matter
The city office sent me the application.
when, but yeah, but it's
That's
not,
the
a-
one that you told me that you uncovered the number, the application number for it. It's 2024-19 from April of 1920.
We
2024.
have to give people a chance to. come
Yeah, we
in
have
and
to have-
discuss it. And
right.
we
Well, she
put
did.
it on the agenda. No, other
did.
people, not her.
Okay.
Other people who might be interested in that tree. That's the whole point of why we put them on the agenda. so
we can
people know
request
what's
that
gonna
that be put
discussed.
on the next month's agenda, but we shouldn't
Yeah,
discuss it,
not-
make a
not gonna
decision
be-
on it,
We really can't.
right?
Okay. All right, now another cool one, the budget report. I talked to Diane Delgado and, about, remember last month, you asked me to check on this too, because I wasn't here for that portion of it, but, we had a bill of $3,200 from John Antonio for, basically taking care of the entrances and other, even, playgrounds around the city, landscaping and taking care of the plants there and everything, which seemed, why are we doing that? But Diane Delgado said, that's always been the way it's been. And,
Diane told me that it had been taken off.
who did?
Diane told me that it had been taken off and we're not responsible for it.
When did she say this? Because I spoke to her on Friday. And she didn't say that?
It was probably before then,
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday of that week.
No, she said that's our responsibility. What she said was that a couple of years ago, if you're talking about that email, a couple of years ago, there was a grant that had covered that. Right? But maybe she was talking about Dewey Park, which is,
The grant had nothing to do with that. It was this was a Delaware Forestry grant.
Right.
And they participated in it because they did some cleanup and moved some trees around for us. So they were part of the grant on that,
that makes so much more sense, doesn't it?
but everything on that list that was entered here last month that was all regular maintenance, which happens every month.
I know,
That,
Ron, but she said it was always taken off the tax. Are you okay?
Thank you.
And as a matter of fact, this month, she gave me the bill of $2,650 for April maintenance, and I will still get one for May and June.
that's got nothing to do with us.
I know that,
Yeah, yeah.
but
That would consume our whole yearly budget.
that's what I said. So I wrote to Antonina and to Suzanne Souter, and I said, this is, our budget is scant as to begin with, but this would basically take half of our budget for the maintenance here.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe that last year, half of our budget was, maybe more than half of our budget was taken to this. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it did.
So here's the problem. Suzanne is now talking about, well, we'll deal with it in the budget process and all that. But she is on vacation. And she is the one who really would be able to make a decision about this and to look into it a little more. So, I'm not bugging Diane Delgado because she's just doing what she knows, what she's supposed to do. So I think as soon as Suzanne Souter gets back from her vacation, I've got to talk to her about this budget because this is crazy. And not only that, as you mentioned, Dewey Park is in there and that's trustee property.
Yeah,
So why would we be doing that? And landscaping, why are we doing landscaping? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I find it hard to believe that this is what has been happening. Apparently, a couple of years ago, John Antonio and Bill Barthel made a deal for this kind of maintenance. And then the question was, where do you put the bill? And they said, well, put it in the tree commission bill, budget. So even without telling the tree commission, because Carl didn't know anything about it.
I was gonna say this, how has this been going on and not showing up on the
I don't know.
budget statement?
I don't know, but it's at least been since Bill Barthel has been gone. So that's,
no, this is
5
all
years.
new.
Yeah, well, it's gotta be. It doesn't make any sense.
And as is the charge for the ash trees.
Oh, really?
I've never seen that before until just recently.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't actually, that hadn't been taken out yet, I don't think. But, it's $2,650 and that was for April. And we'll get a bill for May and June. And July, apparently. But of around $3,000 a month, that's nuts. So I have to talk to Suzanne about it. So
Okay.
right now, she's saying there's $3,100 left in our budget, but that's with all of that taken out, so, and that will be eaten up by the Antonio bill for May at this point, so we have to, it's in flux and I'm gonna talk to Suzanne Souter about it. And so we will deal with that. Okay. Spring planting plan? Did you want to talk about you already did that last
No,
month.
we discussed that last
Okay.
month. That's,
We're getting ready for fall.
that's over.
And extended watering plan, you already discussed that too, I think.
Yes.
And also the elm tree treatment proposal, so you agreed to that last month, right? The elm tree.
Right.
No, that was the ash.
No,
Nope,
it was for the elms.
the elm.
Oh, you're right, Dutch elm.
Yeah, we didn't do
Sorry.
anything.
Two elm.
When I talked to Bartlett, I'll have his name here. They were actually out today
Oh, they were.
and they were looking at the trees that, Ron, on your list, the healthy ash that are left.
How many?
Are you talking about the ash, not the elm?
Well, the same, 6 is like, 6. The ash trees that they were supposedly injecting and some were not even, some were,
Oh.
some were half dead and some were, one with 2 in front of the sheriff's house were actually locusts. I don't,
Yeah, they were honey locusts.
yeah, and I said to the guy at Bartlett, I said, I can't imagine you guys injecting honey locusts, but it's what we were getting, I guess we were getting billed for it. But he said he's gonna come out and send a new estimate
Good.
on Ron,
With
I
specifics
showed him
about
the
which
list
trees and
of
stuff.
what was still alive.
Right,
So he's gonna send that over to the city office and he's gonna look, in his records, he had the elms and he's gonna give an estimate on the elms, so. That should be coming
Great.
shortly.
Great. Oh, didn't we already agree to the L now? I thought
Yeah, we did. We approved that,
Okay,
3,000.
well, he said he was out in the field. He said he has the files, but he needs to go
So
over.
maybe he's gonna put it together.
He's gonna put it together and send it over.
Okay, great.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, for
Appreciate it.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ron, did you wanna have, do you have some comments? Do you have some comments from the meeting, for the meeting?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. And I,
You seem startled.
yeah, well, I wanted to begin by apologizing to you all for, having, tried to get Mr. Whitehead to sit down. And in the process of doing it, I kind of made a mess of it. I can't remember another time when Kathy has ever bolted up from her chair. And when that happens, an apology is necessary, so. Forgive me for being so, stentorian,
There you go.
yeah.
So this is the.
Norman, I'm gonna go right behind you because we have guests that would like to be, part of the program. Oh, no, no, thank you, yeah. So sorry.
Will you come to the garden center and protect me when he shows up?
Sure.
All right, he's already been twice.
Well, we've already gone over the catalpa, but you can see the enormity of the tree, and it's probably, twice the size of the house next to it. And I guess it's astounding to me that you'd have all these roots, tremendous number, I can imagine they'd be huge,
Yeah.
right? You know, they'd be 12, 14, 16 caliper. And, I mean, they're under this house, there's no question about it, and why they're not eating the sewer line alive, I'm not sure, but it's not our responsibility. Next picture, please. Right next to this, as I mentioned, there's a little, driveway, and then here's the London plane tree that's in very close proximity. I measured it out, let's say it's 12 feet, in case my feet are off a little bit, but, you know, why these roots, you know, wouldn't be problematic.
I walked
You
by
know,
this tree the other day.
This is over on Sixth Street where you have a boulevard. You know, you've got trees out on the boulevard and they have to make their way maybe at least 30, 40, 50, 60 feet to get to the house.
This is a newer home than the ones on Sixth Street.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
But even the sidewalk is not.
but it's possible that this is a cast iron system. Is that what you're thinking? You know,
I just know that the properties aren't that old.
yeah. Well, so far, nothing's happened there. Next picture, please. You wonder what's going on with the street. Here's Norman and Ed juggling about a, 600-700 pound root ball, maybe,
Close.
all in a day's work.
That's by the library?
Yeah, by the library.
Did one of those
We
already
put
have
in
to be
4 trees there and one died.
Yeah.
This is.
And then the question is, the question from Linda was, well, what happens when this occurs? And in this case, it didn't make any difference because it didn't come out of your budget. It was a contribution from someone, so, but the tree still, a new tree still had to be found, brought in and then, planted. And so there's, always a problem with this, but in dealing, basically getting the trees from, out in, Oregon, we haven't had that kind of difficulty with them. Next picture, you rarely get to see the municipal service people in action. And here they are, the gentleman getting into full force, pirouetting down the street, if you would. But right in behind him, you'll notice there's one of these silver maples that Linda talked about in her article in the Weekly several months ago. Planted in the 40s was her best guess. This one had some branches that fell down, and apparently that's a problem with them. They get rotten inside and then limbs start falling off. So that was the first step. Get it out of the wires. The gents did that. Next picture, please. Here's what it looked like just before we did something with it. They took it down to this level. Then the stump grinding people came in, and unfortunately, I don't have a picture of that, which would have been kind of interesting. But in this very same spot,
Just as a side note to this,
this is a what?
there's an additional question. That house, is that the house that constantly pumps out water?
Yes.
Yes,
Was that anything to do with the tree, or was that just to do with the fact that it's on
this,
the river?
this is something brand new where they put some pumps in the basement. Instead of running it into the sewer, they're running it right across the sidewalk. So Milt and I looked at this and tried to, I don't know any other place in town that's happened.
Happens on the corner of Sixth and across the road from St.
St.
Peter's.
Peter's, yeah.
They do the same thing, constantly pumping water.
Well, it would be nice if they didn't do it, because in this case, the water was going onto the neighbor at 55 and flooding out the area right in front of the home.
I thought it was in, I didn't know whether that
I
was.
haven't noticed that. Well, I noticed the one on Sixth Street, but
Yeah,
at least there's a sewer right there that catches it, but.
there's no catch basin here. This goes,
Yeah, I mean, I think that after the tree, I wasn't sure whether it was related to the tree, but after the tree's gone, they have redone it, but it still rolls across the back
right,
and then into the sewer.
right. In the next picture, we, with Milt's help, solved the problem by putting a water course in, which directs the water. You can see it goes right up, but now it's going on the owner's property. So there's a nice big puddle in front of their house now. Ed, thanks for helping with all this.
By the way, she just moved.
Is what?
Gail Sykes just moved,
Yeah,
so she doesn't even have the.
well, she was concerned about it.
Yeah, I know.
You know what, that actually reminds me, sorry, this isn't related at all, but the gentleman who was sitting here, we looked to buy that house 23 years ago. And literally when it rained, a river ran underneath that basement.
The
And that's
basement,
why,
yeah.
that's why we didn't buy it, but it was nothing as anything to do with the tree.
Right, right. Well,
That's for other people.
This was a concern of the Seitzes. You know, the people would come up and say, you know, does the little lake out in front, you know, come with it, or? So, but Ed and I worked on this for a good long while to get it all straightened around. And last month I mentioned something about a tech millionaire was trying to plant a trillion trees, and people looked at me with a jaundiced eye, thinking that I was in my typical hyperbole phase. So I thought I better demonstrate unequivocally that this gentleman has a plan, and it's a big one. She was also wondering, I think, maybe you didn't, Walker, the size of the trees that were being put in. Some of them are a little bit smaller than whips even, yeah. And the very last one takes us all the way back to the sycamore again. Here's a case in England where I'm sure some of you read about it, where they chopped down a very, very famous sycamore. I mean, my gosh, if it wasn't Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, you know, you're in big trouble when you're messing with that.
Mhm.
So they cut the rascal down, and then they went to court, and as it says in the very end, the pair will be sentenced at a later date.
There was uproar in England. That was
Oh, yeah.
longer than 150 years. That
And
was,
this-
that's been.
And they did it for no reason except to just, you know, they love to come out of the pub and,
Yeah.
okay, let's get rid of
Yeah.
these things.
Notoriety was, everybody was
Annoyance.
very upset about that.
Well, and just for the record, we've had 2 trees in town that have been murdered. And we know the person in one instance, and of course, in the ordinance, it says there are fines to be levied and whatever, but, you know, we're going to catch the person and. Milt, you're on it, Brian.
That's in the person, yeah. Police got cameras out there, they're live, they're waiting.
But you're not gonna levy anything against them, are you?
I mean, we don't know who did it.
Yeah.
The police, you know.
Well, in the tree right by your house,
Mhm. Yes,
we can surmise.
right, yes.
In the other instance, we know the lady that drove over the tree, and I brought the root structure in here and to examine. It's really quite wonderful.
Yeah.
And it showed how the tree had developed in a very, 2-year period. Yeah,
Right.
that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything to say? No?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Couple of items. Number one is, some members of our group have, proposed that we adopt a checklist for tree removal and tree pruning, where each member of the commission, when we receive the applications, each member of the commission would go out and review the site and complete, this is a working draft of a tree removal and pruning, worksheet.
Mhm.
So the idea, and let me pass this out to you, in fact, rather than me read this to you. Actually, we'll read it. We get the tree applications, but there's no clear and definitive process for deciding what we're gonna do with the applications. I mean, the city provides us with photographs, and we often make a decision right here. But this proposed checklist would be a more straightforward way for commission members
Uh-huh.
to make a determination about the health of the tree, the age of the tree, the location. We could compile those, compare them, review them, and see if we're all in agreement. So it'll give us a
We
little
have to
more.
do that at the meeting.
No, we could do this beforehand. We could do this on an individual basis.
I don't
Where
think we
you
can
have
make
to
it.
go out and look at the trees. to
Oh,
make
no,
a
no, I'm saying,
determination.
but then we can't consult about it.
Oh,
Okay.
we'll all bring this back.
Okay,
And we'll say this applies to application 2025-16
at the meeting, you're talking.
at the meeting.
Yeah, right.
It has our name on it, the application number, and what we've observed and how we believe each individual,
Sounds good to me.
what we think the disposition should be. And that way we have evidence to show the homeowner, we have a record that we can fall back on, and we can ensure that there's consistency in the decision making. So this is a proposal of a rough draft. I'll
So
send
do you
this.
wanna,
Well, we could discuss it further
will, today or in the next meeting?
in the next meeting.
Okay,
I would
so
make a
this is
motion that
something
we
we will put onto the agenda
put on the agenda
at
for
the next
next
meeting.
meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
all right. I also want to propose that we establish that the commission establishes a planting subcommittee that would be responsible for deciding where new trees are gonna be planted, what tree is going to be planted, and responsibility for ordering the trees and seeing that they're delivered and planted. Rather than involve every single person, we could narrow this down to the responsibility of a couple of people. I would be willing to be involved in the committee, but I think we need at least one other person who would be willing to serve on the committee. And again, this is a proposal that we could discuss when everybody's present.
Yeah. Okay, we'll put that on the agenda for next month as well.
Okay,
All right?
Yeah.
Right,
planting subcommittee.
planting stuff, yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay.
I have something.
Yeah.
So in my various walks with different people, I've mentioned that I think it would be a really good idea if we walk the streets there's an inventory of trees we planted, but we don't have an inventory of the existing trees. And we take some time to walk the streets and evaluate trees. And I'm sure we're gonna find some that we're gonna feel we should remove. But if we have that list before the homeowner has to come to us and there's money in the budget, maybe we can work on removing some of them. Because we looked at a tree to fill out these forms on Saturday, and the tree definitely needs to be removed, but nobody lives there. So there's not gonna be an application.
I don't know if there, what the procedure is for that, if they have, there has to be an application, but maybe it is under the auspices of the commission. You know what I mean, like, cause
Well, I
I
don't know.
like I did, on West Third, I, you know, did the application for that one.
Right, but I'm just talking about us getting out there and
Oh, yeah.
inventorying
No,
the existing trees.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
Can I say that that would be a tremendous idea? Also, if you did it on an annual or biannual basis, you could track how trees were progressing or digressing or whatever else. I think that would be really good if you had that for the whole city. I mean, it's a big job, but I
Yeah,
think.
it-
Well,
The only thing I would say, Norman, is that I don't recognize trees. You know what I mean? So I know it's shocking, you know, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what that tree
if you
is.
saw the tree we looked at
Oh,
on
no,
Saturday, yes,
But I
you
wouldn't,
would.
I wouldn't know what kind of tree it is.
You can
Well,
use-
I would be there, so that
But
would
then
be a
you
problem.
You wouldn't have to be.
Yeah, there are apps. No, I think-
If I do, I just would have to figure out what day, cause I work,
Well, we would have to figure out a time.
A
It
time.
might be like 3 go out this Saturday and
Right.
3 go out next Monday or something, but it,
and I think we can only do a group of 2 of us from the county.
Yeah.
From the.
Two and an advisor.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't count.
2 and you.
However, now, no, Kathy, how about this? If we announced it in advance by a couple of weeks and we said that we'll be going out
Oh,
on
come on,
the
work
tree.
with us.
It would have to be.
It would have to be,
formal.
it would have to be a meeting, minutes would have to have been taken.
You'll have to go with us.
I'd have to go with you,
But you,
with my computer.
you could.
That's
could-
not a problem.
You could do that ahead of time on with Google Maps. You could walk down the street and you could identify that there's, I don't know, 25 trees on this street. Anyone could do that, like, but then you could say, okay, tree commission, 2 members, we're gonna go out, here's the checklist, go and fill in what, and then someone could come back and type it up.
Yeah, I think would be way complicated to do more than just say 2 people at a time.
Yeah, well, we just have to coordinate the
Well,
walk around town. We walk, you know.
You pick a
we walk
street,
down.
a street for one meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
You only have to do both sides of the Strand and both sides of Second Street, Market Street.
For one
Work
meeting,
your way. Oh, one walk around.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
So
not,
you're talking
not
about
a
two,
formal
right.
Well, Norm, you wouldn't wanna, you would wanna do the whole town in a day, or?
But
I don't think that would be.
I've done the whole town in a day. I mean, well, Ron and I walked this, I don't know how many miles we have in this
How
town.
much you wanna
But
get
writing
done.
down the trees and everything and their condition and everything, I think that sounds like a lot of work, you know?
Well, these are older trees. There is a list of new trees. right,
Yes.
That have been planted in the
So like,
past 10 years.
there's not much on Delaware,
These would be old trees.
yeah.
Except that one at Fourth that goes like this. You know what I'm talking about?
Sycamore
Yes,
at Fourth and Delaware.
yes.
Easy to,
My next door neighbor says, when are they gonna take that down before it falls on the
It's
car?
healthy.
But I-
It's the same situation that these people. talk about.
Yeah,
Okay, so do we need to do something formal about that right now, or, you know, like a?
No, I just,
No.
I'm bringing up the suggestion that I'll walk around with everybody.
I'd be happy to do that.
It'd probably be better to do it like
Again, I don't recognize
October when
trees.
it's cooler.
And do you prefer weekends? Cause I would have to take a day off to work. What I'm saying. I
Well,
have to put it.
you and I could figure out something to fit it in your schedule. That wouldn't be a problem. I mean,
Okay.
maybe I'd get out of work at 3 and meet you.
Yeah.
Something like that.
right. By the way, that's a suggestion also in our 5-year plan.
That's right. Mhm.
And the first one was doing all the trees that we put in the last 10 years, which is done. And then this would be the next step and then, well on our way. But let's get the budget thing kind of cleared out,
Oh, yeah.
whatever
Oh, yeah.
that is all
It's
about.
gotta be, yeah.
That'd be-
As soon as
that'd
Suzanne
be
gets back, I'm gonna knock on her.
wonderful.
She lives right across the street. Okay, all right, if that's it, then, anybody wanna make a motion to
I
adjourn?
make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great, it is adjourned.
But thank you for having us.
Thank you.